In this section, we are going to be covering all of the steps you need to be running the code in these live lessons. So if you're already very familiar with installation on the Unix command line, running Jupyter notebooks, installing Python libraries, and using Git, this might be too granular, a little bit too much detail. Otherwise, this is going to be a perfect walkthrough to get you started. So the first thing that we're going to do is navigate to the page to the GitHub repository where all this information is stored. So I have a kind of splash page here, which has all the notebooks that we'll be working through. But before we can get there, we want to be doing an install. So there are so many different options out there, what kind of operating system you're using. I tried to cover the major bases here. In many cases, you're going to be wanting to use a Unix-based machine like Mac OS or Linux or Unix itself. If you have a Windows machine, you're going to have to figure out your own way. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit trickier to get TensorFlow running on a Windows machine. So on the assumption that you're using a Unix-based Mac, we're going to go through the step-by-step instructions that I have here for doing that. If you already have everything set up like you like it on your machine, then you can probably simply clone these live lessons and run the notebooks however you like. So here we go for that detailed step-by-step install. In here, the very first step is to open your terminal application. If you're unfamiliar with how to do that, there are a number of ways provided in this link. I have my terminal running over here. An empty session would look like this. And we want to make sure that you're in your home directory, so change directory to home. And we're already there. You press return, of course, to execute the command line. Then we want to get all of the code in the repository. So to do that, we use the command git clone, and to get the directory name, we can grab that from here, from the TensorFlow Live Lessons itself. So click through, there's this clone or download drop-down box, and you can copy the URL from there, paste it into your terminal, and voila, that seemed really easy. I think that if you haven't been doing much programming on your machine, you might be prompted when you try to use Git for the first time to download some additional software to your Mac. You can go ahead and do that. The next step is to install the Docker stable channel. So I provide a link to click through to that. And all that means is to download this stable version of Docker for Mac. So that should be relatively straightforward. You can download that and start it by navigating into Finder, Applications, and finding your Docker right here. So double clicking on it in there to make sure it's running. And when you have it running, it shows up as this friendly whale in your menu bar. Step 6, we go back into our terminal and we execute this line. So let's copy it. So copy it and paste it. Enter your system password. This is a little script that I wrote that allows you to manipulate the files throughout these live lessons when they're running from within a browser. Step 7 is simply changing the directory that we're in. So we're going to change directory into the TensorFlow Live Lessons directory, which should now be present in your home directory. The next step is to actually build the Docker container that we need to be doing all this work. So Docker is this wonderful way, if you're unfamiliar with it, of storing all of the programs in exactly the right version to be doing any kind of work, including these live lessons. And so I've created this Docker image that has all the software that we need. we'll copy and paste that command into here, run it, and this will take varying amounts of time depending on the connection that you have on your internet connection. And as soon as it's complete, we can continue on with the next step. So that might have taken from a few minutes to upwards of an hour, depending on your particular situation. But now that the code has finished downloading, you can see that here, and it made some installs. At the very end, you should see that you have successfully built the Docker container. So that's great news for us, and we're now ready to get going. So head back in here. Step 9 says that when that build process is finished, run the Docker container by executing this command. So this is the command that's actually doing the work. Enter our password. It has now set up a Jupyter server, which is running on this local machine. And so all that we have to do is copy and paste this URL into whatever browser you're using. And voila, here we are. You will see that everything that is on the GitHub online, so we can navigate into the live lessons here and see that we have the installation directory, the notebook directory, and various files. We have the same thing now running on our local machine. So we can head into the notebooks directory, and you can see a boatload of notebooks here that we will be using to be learning how to build deep learning neural networks in TensorFlow. The one final thing that I want to show you is that you may be running this in the cloud. So for example, you could be doing this work in Google Cloud. So I have this server running here named after my puppy. And if you're running it that way in the cloud, you need to configure your ports so that they're visible. And then instead of using localhost in your browser, you're using the external IP. And you would still be getting the token, the password, here from the terminal window. So you just copy and paste that in after the port, like so. So that's great. We're all set. If you want to turn this server off, after you've saved your files, of course, you can simply Control-C in the terminal window here and say, yes, I want to shut down this notebook server. So that will end everything running here. If we try to refresh it in Chrome, it says that this site can't be reached. To get it up and running again, all you have to do is run that same sudo docker run command again. It brings up a new session with a new token, but you can just copy and paste this again into your browser and you're all set.